All right. I have one word for you today: brain health. What do we think of when we think of brain health? We think of brain scans, lab reports, prescriptions, maybe even a lot of neurologists trying to explain to us what is going on in our brain. But what if I told you that picture was incomplete? What if I told you there's actually a hidden factor that doesn't pull up in any scans or prescriptions or reports, or isn't even something that neurologists took seriously until now? That factor is loneliness. Loneliness isn't just the feeling of being alone, it's also physical. It affects things like our sleep, stress, mood, daily habits. Essentially, it's how our brain remains active in its environment. Now, those things, they affect our cognitive abilities. So I'm talking about memory, attention, our ability to respond and converse with people, essentially how our brain engages with our environment. So, loneliness can affect cognitive abilities. Now, when these abilities begin to decline over time, we enter the conversation around neurodegeneration, or the gradual breakdown of brain function. So, if loneliness can affect cognitive abilities, then doesn't it belong in conversations around neurodegeneration? I'm not saying it's going to replace medicine anytime soon, but what I am saying is that we are incomplete when we forget the importance of connection. Loneliness can become a condition to which our body has to respond to physically. When we are constantly disconnected from our world, in the sense that we are threatened with social unprotection, then our body perceives that as a threat. Now, we are programmed to respond to threats, and so today, I would like to talk about the three main ways our brain responds to the threat of loneliness. The first pathway is stress. Loneliness affects stress, specifically the HPA axis, which helps regulate cortisol. Now, it's normal for loneliness to fluctuate over time, so it'll increase and decrease over a 24-hour period, as shown by the dark blue line on the screen. However, loneliness is linked to changes in or a flatter cortisol rhythm. So that's shown by the light blue line on the slide. Now, this can affect sleep, it can affect attention, memory, and it can even increase inflammation. Essentially, loneliness places our brain in a more biologically stressed body. The second pathway is inflammation. Inflammation is meant to protect us. It's part of the body's defense system. But loneliness is linked to an increase in inflammatory changes. And at such an elevated level, this can become extremely harmful for us. The worst part is, chronic inflammation is considered one of the most long-term damaging states for our body. And it's a major biological pathway that neurologists research when it comes to neurodegenerative conditions. Finally, the last pathway is sleep. This graph comes from a meta-analysis of 27 different articles. Sleep is important for our memory, emotional regulation, and clearing waste products from the brain. But loneliness is linked to self-reported sleep disturbance rather than sleep duration. So what this tells us is that a lonely brain is not always a resting brain. When we are lonely, we are more susceptible to social threats and therefore more likely to ruminate, and therefore more unlikely to get the full restorative sleep we need at night. So, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this is why loneliness should be taken seriously, because it becomes biology. The 31% you see on the slide comes from a Nature mental health analysis consisting of over 600,000 participants. It links loneliness directly to a 31% increase in the risk of dementia. However, we should take this with a grain of salt, because linked does not mean cured, and it most certainly does not mean caused. Most of this research is observational, so I'm not saying that it's going to replace medicine anytime soon. But what I am saying is that we should value connection right up there with medicine. Now, we already understand this logic when it comes to exercise. We understand the importance of exercise to our overall health, right? But it doesn't replace doctors. Similarly, if we can implore ourselves to not only ask, what did this person have for their breakfast or their lunch? What medicine did they take? Maybe we can also ask, what is happening around the person? Who did they talk to? So, the future of neurodegenerative care will always need medicine. But again, instead of only constricting ourselves to focus on what's going on inside the brain, we should also ask, what's going on around the person? And if we can do this, if we can shift our way of thinking, then maybe we can revolutionize the future of neurodegenerative care. Thank you so much.